All right, John, tell us about your passion for aviation. Where does it come from?
Well, it comes from just the love of history, where especially World War II airplanes, just because they were such an important part of winning World War II, is having the right air power. Any of the airplanes from back then are just so cool to see again flying, and it's great that people dedicate all the time and money it takes to keep them going. And seeing those airplanes flying kind of brought me the passion of, like, I want to restore airplanes, help fly them, keep them going. And then along with that came the history of them, as like why they were important.
We have an AT-11 behind us, very rare aircraft. Tell us about it.
I was flying other Beech 18s that Fran and I had bought a Beech 18 freighter, and we loved that airplane, but it didn't have a historical significance. When this one did come available, we just kept working at it until we could figure out a deal that worked for both the seller and us, and we ended up buying it, and it's probably the best thing we ever did. Whatever airplane you own, you're going to put so much time and effort and money and everything that goes into keeping them up. We just wanted it to be something that had that historical significance that you could point back to and say, look, all these guys flew it. Like, this airplane was flown in Victorville and in Childress, Texas. It was a bombardier trainer, but a lot of the WASP would have flown these too. These were both WASP bases, so the Women Air Force service pilots, they would actually be the pilots on these so that the bombardiers could do their bombing runs and practice with the Norden bomb sight. It was built in September of 41. And then it was delivered to Victorville, California in early 42. And it was really sold as a multifunctional airplane. Not only could it be a bombardier trainer, but Beech marketed it as a gunnery trainer and a navigation trainer. So this is an early version of this AT-11, which had a Beech-produced single 30 capable gun turret. So in the back of this one, you'll see that it has that 30 caliber gun, and it was a crude operation where you turn the gun, it actuates a micro switch, and then a belt-driven motor would rotate the turret. And that worked out good, and it was kind of a good selling point. But then eventually they moved up to the Crocker Wheeler, and they were able to equip the later model AT-11s with a twin 30 Crocker Wheeler that you actually sat in just like in a B-17 or a B-24. But this was the earliest version of an attempt to make a good training turret for the AT-11s, so that you could teach these bombardiers and the other crew members the deflection angles of shooting a gun in flight. It's one thing to shoot it straight on the ground or when you're aiming at something, but it's another one is a moving target like that, and your airplane is moving also. So this would enable them to try and figure those deflection angles out and learn how to lead when they're shooting. Because if you were a bombardier, a lot of times you would have to operate a gun if you're under an attack. You had guns up there in the nose of a B-17 or a B-24, so you would also be responsible for those.
What does it take to maintain and fly and operate almost an 80-year-old airplane?
Well, luckily, it's a kind of a common model. It's just like a Beech 18, only it has very specific differences, like with the glass nose and the bomb bay doors and the turrets. So the engine parts and a lot of the airframe parts are common to other Beechcraft models. So the engines are easily serviced and the parts are plentiful. It's when you get down to the AT-11 specific things like the turrets and the nose and the bomb bay doors, it's very difficult to find the parts, very rare, and in fact sometimes you have to make things from scratch. You know, machinists like my friend Larry Mueller and Steve Beck at Delta, they'll help me maintain this airplane by fabricating the parts that are unique to it.
One of the neat things about you and the airplane is it's a family affair.
Oh, it takes a lot of people. That's the thing about these airplanes. They're very labor intensive. So everything you do to it, whether it's just open up all the panels for the annuals or disassembling parts, you need help because it's hard to do one person. You can't even uncal it by yourself, really. So you're always asking for help, and you always need assistance with things, and the more the merrier, basically. You know, and it's good training for them because they're learning how to work on things, and all of them are very handy with being able to fix their own things now because they've been helping with this over the years.
You are also involved with the Liberty Foundation, which is a 501c3 no-profit flying museum, very active in the Southeast with warbirds. What's the latest with the Liberty Foundation? You guys are operating a C-47 and restoring a B-17.
That's correct, yes. They're restoring the Liberty Bell down in Douglas, Georgia, and we now have the C-47 of Don Brooks that was a D-Day and a Market Garden veteran that was also a big part in the Greenland expedition. They recovered the P-38. So that airplane is undergoing some great work now to make it be able to tour, drop jumpers, do rides, and then shortly after, in a few more years, we'll have the Liberty Bell B-17 back in the air, and we'll be flying those. And other big plans too, hopefully to announce soon.